Hey guys, welcome to my first look video at BMW's M3 CS Touring. We knew the M3 CS Touring was coming. I've seen loads of various spy shots of test mules out of the Nürburgring, out and around Munich. And in fact, when I was in Munich last summer, I also spotted a couple of camouflaged M3 CS Tourings. BMW don't just chuck a load of parts on an M3 competition touring and call it a CS. They extensively test and develop M3 CS Tourings. Like I said, I've seen a couple. It wouldn't surprise me if they've had, let's say, 10 M3 CS Tourings circulating for the past 2 or 3 years in various forms of camouflage and various forms of test mule, because some cars are testing suspension, other cars cooling, they have to test them in the heat and in the cold, etc. So the amount of time, money, research that goes into even these special models is ridiculous, because a lot of people, including me a few years ago, just assumed that something like a CS was literally a part shelf car. Oh, we've made a carbon fibre bonnet, let's stick it on the regular M3 Touring, etc, etc. But actually there's a lot more time and development that goes into these, and that's why when I get my hands on one like the G80 M3 CS Saloon that I had, well, almost 2 years ago now, I very quickly realised that it was more than just a parts bin special. It's definitely not an M3 Saloon with some M Performance parts on them, because as we all hopefully know, M Performance parts these days definitely don't mean performance. They just mean marketing performance. There's basically nothing performance gained with M Performance parts. When BMW M launched the previous F generation CS cars, they started with the F82 M4 CS, and I think that was back in the 2017, early 2018. Fantastic car, very stripped out. They'd even taken the door cards out of that car. There was nowhere in the cabin to put anything. It was like a proper race car. And although most people, including myself, raved about it, could feel the differences compared to an F82 M4 regular or M4 competition, comp as they called it for a while, that car didn't really sell in massive numbers. A lot of people sniffed their nose at it, thought it was a bit overpriced for what it was, and it's a rare car to this day. You don't see too many of those out there. They then launched the M3 CS, so the F80 M3 CS. I think that was in 2019 or maybe the back end of 2018, about a year after. And I think, this is my theory, that the M3 CS was almost by accident. It was almost a model that BMW M decided to do because they had a lot of parts left over from the M4 CS. And guess what? As far as I can see, the M3 CS was more of a success. They didn't carry over things like the lack of door cards, which might have saved a few grams here and there, but in reality were a bit of a pain in the arse to live with. So it was a bit more of a usable CS, and to this day I think the F80 M3 CS is just one of the most wonderful cars out there. It's beautiful, it's special, it does everything. It's such a fantastic car, and again I have massively fond memories filming a video with that out near the Nürburgring with my good friend Robert, and absolutely love that car to this day. Then we get to the very latest G Series M cars, and BMW decided to launch the M3 CS first back in the beginning of 2023, so 2-ish years ago. And as I've already talked about, I mean, that in saloon form, amazing. From the second you fire it up, you can hear by the idle it's different, the exhaust note, titanium back box, just lots of small little changes, and then you pull away and you start driving it and you realise it's really, really special. It's engineered exceptionally well. Absolutely love that car. And then just over a year later, the back end of last summer, BMW launched the M M4 CS, the G82 M4 CS. And they launched that in line pretty much with the facelift of the 4 Series in general. So came with the new lights, came with some new interior bits, including the steering wheel, which to my opinion is way too chunky and way too fat. I have driven one very briefly when I went out for the M5 pre-drive 18 months ago or so, but the weather was horrendous and I just didn't put a video in the bag. But I am actually getting a G82 M4 CS in a couple of weeks' time. So let me know if there's anything specific you want me to do on that car. Now, the current M4 CS, and I say the current because it's still on BMW UK's configurator, well, that has, again, this is speculative, but that has been a real sales flop. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, the current climate and car industry is kind of on its knees. And I think if you see Porsche discounting their brand new 992.2 generation 911s, then you're probably going to expect BMW to give you some heavy discounts on M4s and M4 CSs. And that's exactly what's happening. From my understanding, there's a car park full of unsold M4 CSs over here. And that is pretty obvious when you wander into a lot of BMW dealerships up and down the country, because I've seen discounts almost as big as £20,000 off brand new M4 CSs. That's a far cry from if we rewind to 2022 when BMW launched the G82 M4 CSL, and you basically had to give BMW more details than if you're mortgaging a £5 million house. They really wanted to know everything about you and made you feel very special if you're on their list and eligible to buy the M4 CS. A bit like Porsche kind of do with their GT RS cars. So BMW tried that trick with the M4 CS L, but I'm pretty sure they wouldn't try that trick if you wandered into a dealership and asked them for an M4 CS, because from my understanding there's quite a few unsold M4 CSs. Let's have a quick look at some of the press material I've been sent. So lots of photos from BMW UK, which are German press shots, but I also was lucky enough to get sent a nice little package from Nick in BMW Australia of their shots with the M3 CS Touring. And the reason that Nick sent me them is actually, as we speak now, because, well, it's morning in Australia, they're about to launch the M3 CS Touring in Australia at the 12-hour Bathurst endurance race, which is just a wonderful, wonderful race. If you're ever in Australia, or you ever get the chance to go there, it's a long way, I know, then make sure you go and see it. I've watched it once, many, many moons ago with Audi Australia, actually, and absolutely loved the event. And the fact that BMW M are launching this car out there, I mean, oh my goodness, I would have given anything to be out there. Nick sent me some really cool pictures and videos, including him driving the M3 CS around the Bathurst circuit, being tracked at relatively slow speeds so we can get silky smooth shots, but just gives you a lovely idea of what the car looks like on the move, because as we know, it's all very well looking at cars static, but they always look so different on the move, especially some of BMW's latest offerings. Let's look at the G87 M2. I call that the Lego car. It doesn't look that great standing still, especially in stock form, but when you see one on the move, I think they look 10 times better. And I think that's true with the M3 and the M4. So yeah, that is Nick heading around the mountain. And what a course, and what a beautiful, beautiful car. So I'll close that down, just have a quick look through some of the other German press pics. Not sure where this is. It does look like it could be out in the States somewhere. It looks very dry. Lovely drift. I mean, it just looks stunning. I mean, it's beautiful. Who doesn't like a fast wagon? Obviously, I am obsessed with them. And the M3 CS, it's just, wow. Absolutely Stunning, stunning. Right, let's get into some facts and figures before I go on too much, because this video is already relatively long. Well, list price. In the UK, if you want an M3 CS Touring, you're looking at £120,600, which is an awful lot of money. But in 2023, so 2 years ago, they launched the M3 CS Saloon, as we talked about, and that was 116 grand. And that was 2 years ago. There's been a lot of inflation since then. So when you factor that in, last year, M4 CS was launched, coupe, and that was 120 grand. And also a base M3 competition touring will set you back £88,000 here in the UK. So you're paying an extra 32 grand for the CS. Comes in 4 different available colours. British Racing Green. Where did I get that idea from? No idea. Laguna Seca Blue, which is what all of these press shots are. Frozen Solid White, which is what the M3 CS Saloon that I tested, that was frozen. Let's have a look. There it is. Nice in the flesh, but for a CS, I'm not sure it's special looking enough in white. I don't know. And also, as much as I love the contrast of white and black or white and carbon, it's maybe a little bit too strong. But anyway, that's one of the colours. And the final colour is black sapphire metallic. And in fact, I had a black sapphire metallic M4 CSL out in Germany a couple of years ago, press car, and that was just beautiful. But as with all black cars, they look fantastic when they're clean and not scratched, and they're just hard to keep clean. So I think for me, it would have to be Laguna Seca Blue would be pick of the bunch. I'm sure British Racing Green looks stunning as well. I can't wait to see one of those. But as I found out with my M3 Touring over the past year, it's a difficult colour to keep clean and keep scratches off because it's a flat colour. Let's start with the engine. So the S58, very familiar, 3 litre inline 6 twin turbo. In the normal M3 competition, it now produces 530 horsepower because it's recently been facelifted, and part of that facelift was an extra 20 horsepower, so 530. The CS is 550, so a much smaller gap. And in fact, if you watch my recent M3 Saloon LCI video, where I actually filmed Tony Lewis, TRL Deals, filmed his car, I did say in that BMW seemed to really bridge the gap with the updated M3 competition. It feels much more CS than the pre-LCI. So there is a smaller gap now in every sense, because I think they've used a lot of the know-how and development that we talked about earlier from the CS, and they've put it into the updated competition. So 550 horsepower, the same 650 newton meters of torque. BMW claim that it will do 0 to 62 sprint in 3.5 seconds. I am in no doubt that it would do that. It would probably do it in about 3.1 seconds, 3.2 on a bad day. Top speed limited, 186 miles an hour. Again, I know that it will do that. I mean, 186 miles an hour in your estate or your wagon. Very, very cool. 0 to 124 miles an hour in 11.7 seconds. That is crazy. It retains a lot of the carbon parts that you get on the M3 and M4 CSs. Let's just go and have a look through Nick's lovely pics, because I mean, they're just gorgeous. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Looks like either sunrise or sunset, I don't know, but stunning. Great to see they've all got Michelin, looks like Pilot Sport Cup 2 tyres on there. Naturally, press cars. We get the carbon bonnet, which is probably no surprise. We get the carbon splitter. We get the CS/CSL style massive grills. They're obviously a lot more open than they are on, say, the competition. We also get the carbon intakes as standard on this, the carbon door mirrors. What we don't get on the Touring that we do get on the coupe and the saloon, well, we don't get a carbon fibre roof because BMW never developed a carbon roof for the Touring. So you're not going to expect to get that on this car. You do get underneath the bonnet, and I don't think we've got any pictures of it, but you would probably have seen it in various other pictures and in videos, like mine with the saloon. In fact, let's just bring this up here, and I'll probably talk about it when we get the bonnet open. There we go, as if by magic. We get this upgraded strut brace, which I believe is slightly lighter but a lot stiffer than the regular strut brace that you get in an M3 competition. You also get, I was reading in here somewhere that the engine mounts are stiffer or strengthened, adjusted, adapted to the CS. So once again, it really does come down to the nuts and bolts and the nitty gritty in these cars, because although on the face of it everything's very similar, they've made a few small changes. So we've got lighter bonnet, a few other lighter bits and pieces, lighter wheels as well. The forged staggered 19 and 20 inch wheels are a lighter weight wheel compared to the ones that are on the regular non-CS M3. Boost pressure of the two mono-scroll turbochargers has been increased to 2.1 bar, so that gives you that extra 20 horsepower over the competition. 650 newton meters, we talked about that already. That's the same amount of torque that you get in the non-CS, so the torque level hasn't changed. Although it does, well, talking from experience in the saloon, everything does feel a bit more urgent. It definitely feels like there's just a bit more freedom in there. So I'm sure that will also be the same with the Touring. Although there's not massive weight savings, I think they've saved about 15 kilos with those carbon bits and the lighter weight wheels compared to a regular Touring. And when you're talking about a car that's almost 2 tons, I don't think you're going to feel that 15 kilos. But if you do option the carbon ceramic brakes and have the lighter weight wheels, then you've got all that unsprung mass, which will definitely translate to the car feeling and handling a little bit better, giving you definitely a bit more feel. The titanium silencer, so essentially the rear section of the exhaust, the back box is titanium, so it sounds better, saves a bit of weight, just like the saloon and the coupe. It retains the MX drive all-wheel drive system, so it's a switchable system. You can switch between four-wheel drive, where it sends fairly equal power and torque to all four wheels, a little bit more to the rear axle. Then you can go four-wheel drive sport, where it sends, I think, 75% to the rear axle, and that does adjust on the move as well a little bit. And then you can go rear wheel drive only, and you've got a 10-way adjustable traction control, which is nothing new for the G series, but again, it's great to see that they've carried that over. Specific chassis tuning doesn't really go into too much stuff. Does say that they also have adjusted the calibrations for all of the traction control, stability control, etc. So they played around with all of those adjustments in terms of software, but they've definitely, or they would have definitely played around with the suspension itself, because they always seem to play that down with the CS models, but it's usually the first thing you feel when you're on the move is how much better they are in terms of their suspension. It always feels more expensive in a CS, and it is more expensive, as we know, 30 grand more expensive. And a lot of people might get that wrong. They might look at a CS and go, oh, CS, I don't need that as my family car, it's too hard edge. But actually, the majority of CSs in the past, let's say 10 years, have all given you a better ride quality. So they've actually gone the other way. We've talked about the colours that are available. We've talked about the frameless M kidney grille. There is a red border around the kidney grille, which I don't think I'm the biggest fan of, but it's on there. It kind of contrasts well with the Laguna Blue press car. Look at Nick behind the wheel. Look at that focus. Because what you don't realise is shots like this, looks like there's like 5-6 meters there, but I bet you Nick is like a meter from the camera car, and it's always difficult because if the camera car has to stop urgently, well, he can kiss goodbye to that lovely carbon splitter. Sure, the red would look good on the black sapphire, where the black's all sort of murdered out, and a bit of sort of contrasting colour would look good. But yeah, it's not, probably not my cup of tea. What else have we got? I think we're kind of getting to the end. You'll be glad. Customer deliveries in the UK from March 2025. So by the time you're watching this, basically a month away. Yes, I have already spoken to Tony just to see if my M5 Touring has gone into build, because I knew this was coming, but I didn't realise it was coming so soon. But it looks like my M5 has potentially gone into build. He's double checking tomorrow. Although it's not going to hold massive value, I've looked online, and 1-year-old M3 CS saloons have lost 15-20 grand with low miles. The coupes have lost 20 grand before they even leave the showroom. I mean, literally, anyone that bought one at full price must be pretty upset. I think BMW probably play it hard with this car initially, and it's definitely going to be a sought after car. But as we've seen with the regular M3 competition Tourings, I mean, there was so much hype around that car, including from myself. The market was flooded, and within a few months there was 50 used examples on Auto Trader, and you can pick up a lightly used M3 competition Touring in the UK for as little as 65 grand. I mean, if you've got 70 grand, there's so many available with decent options. So yeah, when you've got to spend almost twice that to get the CS, well, it would be interesting to see what the market does with this car. But I know if I had the money in the bank, burning a hole in my pocket, if I was a millionaire, I mean, I wouldn't be caring about 10, 15 grand here or there, and I'd definitely order one. But yeah, that does make it about 6 or 7 grand more than an M5 Touring, although obviously this is a very special version of the M3, and the M5 Touring is the base with a mere 727 horsepower. I probably missed loads of things, but massive thanks for watching. If you've got this far into the video, huge thanks to Nick and the guys and girls at BMW Australia. Huge thanks to Tom at BMW UK for sending me out this. I'll see you at another video very, very soon. In fact, on Saturday, I'm going to be publishing another ordering video. Keep an eye out for that. Huge thanks to my channel sponsors, G85 and, of course, Michelin. Thank you very much, guys. See you soon.